Hi, my name is K.Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Mark Haynes, M0DXR. Mark is a serious DXer and contester. He serves on the CQ Worldwide Contest Committee. He founded the UK version of the Contest University. He's operated from over 40 DXCC entities. That, combined with his professional experience as a project manager, really makes him a perfect person to be chairing the WRTC 2026. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Kevin. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, I appreciate you joining me from London. I'm not sure what time it is there, but I know these overseas calls can be somewhat difficult, so thank you for that. Why don't we start with the WRTC? I've talked to several competitors, so we've talked about what it is, but I think it's always good to give a summary of what the WRTC is for those people who don't know.
Thanks, Kevin, for that introduction. And it's great to be here. I'm honored to be talking about this wonderful project. WRTC stands for World Radio Sport Team Championship. It's now, the UK in 2026 will be the 10th WRTC. It takes place usually every 4 years, similar to the Olympic Games, and it is regarded as the Olympic Games of amateur radio contesting. And quite like the sports competitors in the Olympics need to work hard to perform well in order to qualify, this is the same for ham radio contesters. So there's a program of a number of serious contests that run through a period of between 18 months and 2 years that people will try to score well in their respective areas in order to qualify for WRTC. So we've just obviously seen the 2022 WRTC, delayed by 1 year due to the COVID pandemic, take place in July this year. And we're really excited that we've been able to convince the sanctioning committee that we are serious and that we will execute the project in accordance with the core principles of the WRTC program. So in 3 years' time, we only have 3 years. We're trying to get back on track with bringing it in 2026 as opposed to 2027. So we have 3 years in order to plan and execute the project. And with the team that we have on the project here in the UK, I'm very confident that we can do that.
So before we get too far, I need to ask what may seem like an obvious answer, but why did your group want to host? From everybody I've talked to, this is a tremendously labor-intensive event. Why did you want to host it in the UK?
Well, it's never been held in the UK, for one. So it's always kind of been on many people's minds, not only over here in the United Kingdom, but worldwide, that perhaps it would be good if we could do it one day here. And I had a little bit of a few conversations with some guys on the sanctioning committee who also happen to be very good friends, who were kind of nudging a few people over here saying, hey, how about it? And it was quite a daunting prospect, actually, initially, when I was first having conversations with Doug Grant, K1DG, in December last year. But the more I thought about it, the more I got excited about it and was kind of motivated to really try and drive this forward. So I very quickly set up an organising committee to get this off the ground, and we went through a period of about 5 or 6 months where we had to convince ourselves that we were able to actually put a bid forward. So I think it comes down to, there are sort of 2 or 3 really challenging aspects of the project, and it's probably the same for every WRTC in history. It comes down to the finance aspects, the time to be able to actually plan this, because it is a really big project to organise, as you rightly pointed out, Kevin. But also the amount of volunteers that we actually need to come forward to actually make this happen, not only during the week of the event itself, but also in all the preparation activities that are needed, and there are many of those.
So I know you've already formed a committee. I've seen on your website there are I think 5 or 6 individuals. Tell me a little bit about that, who you brought aboard and what functions those committee members have.
Yeah, so there were a handful of guys that immediately sprung to mind. We've got Lee Valanti, G0MTN, who's a big friend of mine, and he's helped out with Contest University in the past. He's also been an operator at K3LR and various contest groups here in the UK. So he's a serious guy and knows his stuff. So Lee he's also on the CQ contest committee, in fact. So he's a very good candidate for the actual competition and rules side. And he agreed to that role. He's recently been taken up the role of vice chairman as well. So Lee's a very serious and thorough guy, and I've got great confidence in him. Andy, G4 Papa India, Quebec. Again, very good friend and incredibly serious contester, an excellent SO2R operator. He's also one of the key guys up at the Mike 6 Tango multi station here on the east coast of the UK. And Andy, he knows his hardware. He's very good with IT and telecoms, so he's an excellent person for the sites, the site selection, and the hardware aspects. We've got Steve, Mike 1 Alpha Charlie Bravo, who happens to also be the general manager of the Radio Society of Great Britain. So he's an excellent person to help us reach out to the national and international community, and that he will serve as director of volunteers and will help with that side of things. And I've got every confidence in Steve, who is also a contester, in fact. Fred, Golf 4 Bravo Whiskey Papa, he's director of finance, great guy with a very big station not too far from me. And he's also a very serious contester, again, and a Mike 6 Tango guy. And he's got a wealth of experience behind him in his professional experience, but also in the hobby. And then we've got Chris Danby, Golf 0 Delta Whiskey Victor. Now, Chris is one of those guys that kind of just knows everybody. He's the advertising agent for the Radio Society of Great Britain, so he has lots of communication with organizations and manufacturers, radio dealers. So he's a very well-connected guy, but also has engineered a serious contest station himself, so he understands what it's all about. Very good friend with Chris personally, so I'm really pleased he's on board with us. And then we have Georgina, Mike 6 Yankee Golf Lima, and she happens to be my wife. But apart from that, she's very serious about amateur radio and contesting as well. She gets the contesting aspect, and she's got the bug for that. She also runs her own travel agency business, so she's very, very well connected in terms of organisation of travel and hospitality. So her obvious role was director of hospitality, so she's very much on board with us as well. We have an IT team consisting of Tim, GW4VXE, Pete, 2 M0SQL, and also Michael, G7VJR. So they're all names and call signs that I'm sure many will find familiar in the contesting world. I mean, Michael instigated Clublog, which is a very successful logging platform, and also an online DXCC tracker and what have you, etc. Tim, GW4VXE, is a serious contester as well. I first met Tim on the Comoros expedition in 2001 at Delta 68 Charlie. We've been friends since, so for 22 years. Really good IT guy, and just gets things done, and a very friendly individual. Pete up in Scotland, he's just an amazing IT whiz. He got all the website ready. He built it and launched it on the night of the closing ceremony in Italy. So he's every time there's a change to the website, Pete gets it done almost before I send the email. So he's very efficient. So I've got a lot of confidence in the team that we have over here. We also have a very strong advisory committee who have agreed and come forward and giving us their time to offer their experience, their advice, their suggestions on various paths that we can take when we reach a junction. So feeling good about the team we have. I think we need to probably recruit one or two more onto the organising committee, and we've got some ideas about that. So looking good, Kevin, from a personnel perspective here on the team.
Well, it sounds amazing. That's quite a lineup of individuals with a great deal of experience. One of the things that occurs to me, Mark, is that this being the 10th running of the WRTC, you have the advantage of some best practices over the prior 9. but you also can see clearly probably some of the challenges that they dealt with. I'm wondering how those past experiences, both good and bad, have impacted the planning for the WRTC 2026.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a very firm foundation set with the WRTC program, and there are certain core principles that we want to continue. Um, but we also want to try and build on that, build on the lessons learned, and put something in place that is everyone's going to enjoy and everybody feels is as fair as it can possibly be, but also set a foundation for WRTC 2030, 2034, and beyond. So, one of the key aspects, of course, is to try and make the experience as fair and equal as possible. Now, the qualification rules, the qualifying criteria, is a real challenge to please everybody. You're never going to please everybody; it's impossible. Um, we have 50 teams, of which 42 of those are qualifying teams. So therefore, we are actually reducing the number of slots available, which means that we have to be brutal in some ways to bring that down. The reason we've gone for a lower number of teams, as we've seen in recent years, is purely the logistics and convincing ourselves that we don't want to commit to something that we don't feel comfortable in pulling off. So we actually started off on a number quite a bit lower than 50, to be perfectly honest with you. We started off with 40, but after consultation with the sanctioning committee and a bit of research on our side for interest in people that were able to come forward and in principle help us, we were able to increase that number. So we are seeing, having launched the qualifying criteria, we've seen some feedback. There's a lot of happy people. There are some people who are questioning certain aspects and saying, "Hey, this doesn't quite put us in a good position," depending on where they are in the world and who they're competing against in their qualification area. We'll try and massage that as best we can where possible, but it's not going to be, as I say, it's not going to be possible to please everybody. So there are things that we've learned along the way, and on that side of things, we want to try and also encourage youth. So we've got quite a high ratio of youth teams compared to previous WRTCs. So it's really important that we invest in that and secure some foundations for the future and get people excited in that sort of under 26 age bracket. So we're very focused on that. We want to bring youth to the event, not in the hobby, but also outside, not just in the hobby. So we're trying to line up some potential school visits and scout visits, that kind of thing, to actually get involved, do some workshops, do some practicals, get on the air, and then get excited about the contest itself. So, but of course, WRTC is more than just a radio contest. This is really organising a vacation for about 400 people. So it's really, there's a lot of planning that is taking place. There's a lot to pull off, and we've got lots of people to consider with their needs. We're working on the venue at the moment, and there was some feedback from the Italy WRTC, some good feedback, and some feedback that maybe that could be improved. So we're thinking really carefully about how we can have one location for everyone to be, so that we can serve the contesters, the competitors, the referees, the judges, and the visitors all in one location. That's a real challenge here, because there are only maybe 2 or 3 potential venues that meet that criteria in the southeast of the UK. So we're working very hard to try and select the venue that can deliver the best project for us. But then, of course, you've got all the other pieces like the inventory of the hardware, site selection, the finances, trying to get the sponsorship in so that we can actually do the project. The list is very long, believe me. So we're just trying to prioritize and focus on the right things at the right time. And the sanctioning committee and previous members of post WRTCs are really coming forward to help us and offering their assistance, and we're immensely grateful for that. So yeah, I'm feeling good about it, but I'm also very cautious of the risks that lie ahead, Kevin.
Well, it sounds like you have a good plan, and you're certainly that description is very thorough. And there's many things that I want to get into. One of the things that we haven't talked about is site locations. I know that is probably the ongoing conversation that I hear from all the WRTCs. Are the site selections fair? Are they relatively equal? And I heard some feedback from Italy that it was difficult. I think that the bed and breakfast approach seemed to be better than being intense, but some people were definitely disadvantaged. I think when I talked to Yuri, he talked about it as that element of luck. Do you get the site that is going to be best for you? But tell me how you're dealing with site selection. How does that looking? What kind of radius are you trying to stay within? Will it be back in physical structures like homes, or will it be back in tents? What's that looking like?
Right. So the sites will be portable operations, so they will be in tents. What we can have maybe a little bit of confidence in, but not certainty, is that the weather is likely to be quite a bit cooler than you'd find in the Mediterranean. Up here, we tend to get cooler summers, but that's not guaranteed because we're actually going through a bit of a heat wave at the moment here in September, so it's a bit unpredictable. But the important thing for us is consistency. So we want to make sure that everybody has a consistent and level playing field. That's really important to us. So it will be portable operation. The sites will be located mainly in Suffolk and Norfolk, which are the two counties that make up the majority of East Anglia in the southeast of England. So those counties are about anything between an hour and 2 hours northeast of London. So access to those sites from the main London airport won't be a challenge. You can get trains out there quite easily, or we can put on some shuttle services perhaps. But the actual sites will be selected by Andy, G4PIQ. He will be conducting surveys of the terrain, and also he'll be doing measurements on RBN signals, and making sure that if you have one that really stands out where the signals are really big, that gets taken away, and obviously the ones that are quite a bit lower as well. So we're looking for sites that are all on providing equal signal strengths to all parts of the world. And this part of the UK is the only really the only area that can offer the required terrain here in England, because it's very flat in Suffolk and Norfolk. Okay, so you don't tend to get hilly areas. Most of it is only just above sea level. So therefore, it offers the terrain that we require. Anywhere west of that area, you get hills and mountains and valleys, and that's not what we're looking for. We will be mindful of selecting sites that are not too close to the North Sea. We need to be set back from the sea, and well over land in all directions for as much terrain as possible, as much distance as possible. It is possible that we might spill over into Cambridgeshire, some of the lower lying areas of Cambridgeshire, and possibly North Essex, but I think the majority would be in Norfolk and Suffolk. One of the strategies is to try and find as many locations that can support clusters of sites as possible. Not only from a logistics point of view does this make sense, because if you can locate 5 stations broadly together, separated by around 500 metres, then your provision of spares is more easily managed. You can have a central pool of spares serving those locations, but also from a volunteers perspective as well. We can distribute volunteer teams, management teams, to look after clusters of sites rather than individual sites. So it just makes use of resources a lot more practical. So that's our approach so far. We've got some ideas on the site locations. Have we matured that at this stage? No, we're not at that stage yet. That's something that will be creeping up the priority list in 2024. But at this stage, we're focusing some of the more near-term goals. So that's all that excitement's yet to come, Kevin.
Mark, can anything be done regarding noise level? Is there a thought about checking for noise levels at various sites just prior to the event, or is that something that's just out of your control?
Well, one of the benefits also of operating portable is that you don't tend to have too many buildings in the vicinity, which generally are a contributor to noise levels. Obviously, power lines and some of the more obvious sources of noise, we're going to try and steer clear of those. If any of the sites have high noise levels, they'll be removed from the list. And as I say, we're looking for consistency. Yeah, not only on signals but noise levels as well. And of course, we'll need to check those on all 5 of the frequency bands in the contest. And also, we need to be mindful of these noise sources. They can be present at times of the day. They can go away at other times, so we just need to be very clear about what we've got in the vicinity. So that's very much on our agenda, and we're aware of those likely problems that may occur.
Mark, I want to take you back to qualifying because obviously, as you mentioned, with less teams, I think you said 50, there's going to be a lot of competition for those 50 slots. I think you've changed the weighting, the point weighting this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that change was and why that it was initiated?
Yeah, we've played around with it a little bit. I mean, there were some comments that I received from various competitors in Italy. They were saying, well, wouldn't it be nice if we could have the qualification scoring consistent with the format of the WRTC event itself? So multi-2 operation, 100-watt stations, 24-hour contest. That offers maximum points. And there are a number of reasons why the 100-watt category doesn't offer the full 1.0 weighting. And one of these things is, unfortunately, you can never be sure about really policing these contests and the entries. So it's very challenging sometimes to pick out those that are feeling inclined that they need to cheat in order to perform. So that's one of the main reasons you have this distinction, and the reason that the high power offers 1 and the low power offers 0.95. We have increased the available points in the IARU contest, which offers a multi-2 category. So because we wanted to try and generate recognition that is the WRTC format, so please come and play in the IARU contest. But yeah, there have been numerous sort of tweaks and modifications and fine tuning of the scoring and the weighting for various things. But I think because Lee is so thorough, he really did his homework on this and looked at the historic WRTCs. He did some amazing stats and analysis of CQ Worldwide, ARRL, and all of the scores, the recent scores, and concluded that this rule set was probably as good as we're going to get it. And he put that to the organising committee. We put that to the sanctioning committee. There were a few things we had to change. We found some of the areas of the world very challenging to work out how many teams we wanted to offer in those areas. There are some really big geographical differences in some of the continents and some of the areas. And whilst we're trying to find out who the best of the best is, you're never going to have a 100% perfect qualifying process. And we have to recognize that. Is it as good as we're going to get it? Well, more or less, I think. Yeah, there's always going to be differences in views on that, depending on who you are and where you live, what you're trying to achieve. But we have to try and take that practical view and keep as many people as happy as possible.
Mark, I think everybody will appreciate the fact that you're bringing in more youth teams. How do you define a youth team, and how do they qualify?
To qualify as a youth, you have to be under the age of 26 at the point of the end of the WRTC contest in 2026. So that's the first piece. The qualifying criteria is exactly the same as for anybody. It's just that we will select on a global scale who are the top 4 youth participants in the program that have scored highest. They would be invited to the 2026 event. Obviously, if they qualify in their areas anyway, then we would offer that youth position to the next in line.
So you'd mentioned you have a person responsible for finance. I think it was Fred. Obviously, this is a very expensive event to put on. Tell me a little bit about what it costs, if you don't mind sharing that, and how you're approaching sponsors. Can individual hams donate? How does that all work? How are you going to raise the money, and how can we help you?
Yeah, it's a really big piece of our focus at the moment. This is one of our priorities. So we're about to make a really big push on the sponsorship. We've only reached out to a few organisations so far, but and those are really because of personal connections that we have. But yeah, we're estimating that this is going to be in the region of between 600,000 and 700,000 British pounds. So it's a big chunk of money, really, isn't it? I mean, we have a sponsorship structure in place, a bronze, silver, gold, and prime sponsorship one. They've all got their individual levels, and so we're approaching manufacturers, radio clubs, DX organisations all around the world. And as I say, we're about to make a big push on that. Cash flow is an interesting one for us. We need to spend some money now. We've already done a deal for a chunk of hardware, and that's going to be en route to us very soon, within the coming 2-3 months' time, and we have to pay for that. So there's that aspect. We also need to be looking to secure our venue, which is the biggest cost, actually. So that's going to be just around the corner, probably within the next 4 to 5 months. So that's coming. So individuals, yes, absolutely. The individual contributions are very important, and we're very grateful and thankful to all of the sponsors and the contributors to this. So we're going to be very shortly launching on our website the ability to donate via PayPal. We will also have the WRTC 2026 bank details on there. And all of everybody who contributes to this project will get recognition on our website, and of course on future productions and presentations that follow. And we're immensely grateful for that. So there's a big job to do there, Kevin. Lots. We need to be attending ham conventions, rallies, DX gatherings for the next 2.5 years. To try and raise funds and also generate awareness for the event. The other aspect of sponsorship is we'll probably be repeating the tent sponsors as well. So this is where maybe a group of individuals or a radio club can come forward and sponsor a tent and help out that way. And that's a really important piece for us as well. So obviously, we went live. We went public on the 10th of July at the closing ceremony of Italy. Where are we now? We're almost 2 months, only 2 months down the line from that. So there is a lot to do, but of course we've got 1 year less than what we would normally have. So we're really putting on the throttles now and giving it a push.
Mark, you'd mentioned looking for a venue that can handle the numbers of people that you'll have at the event, and I'm trying to imagine what that might be. I mean, with competitors, we must be looking at about 120 people, I guess, with your 50 teams. In case there's any extras, you have referees, you have infrastructure, spouses. How many people will come to this, do you think?
Yeah, it's very difficult to predict exact numbers, but we are budgeting and planning for between 400 and 500 to actually be here. 100 of those will be competitors, 50 of those will be referees. We'll have a handful of judges. We'll have people coming over, not just nationally but internationally, as volunteers to help us. And then of course we've got the management team, the organising committee, the sanctioning committee, and all of the rest of the volunteers and spectators. We'll get a lot of people coming over and flying in here just to watch the event and experience it for themselves. So, and of course, I mentioned it's a holiday. You're organising a holiday effectively. So we're going to have tours and events. And one thing we really want to get right, and Georgina is giving this a lot of time. She spent I don't know how many nights, late nights, figuring this out. We want to get the the opening ceremony, and also probably more importantly, the closing ceremony, they're going to be, they're going to be good party. So people are going to enjoy that. So even at this stage, we're putting quite a lot of planning into that. We want it to feel like the Olympics, and the award ceremony needs to feel like the Olympics. So all I can say is that please book that week, July 26 now, in your diaries. Put it in your diaries, and we'll let you know when you can secure your place.
So you mentioned spectators. I'm really curious about that. Obviously, you have the events that spectators can go to. How could somebody monitor or watch what's going on while the contest is going on? Is there any way other than the online scoreboard?
Well, we'll be monitoring that from the HQ venue as well. So there'll be, we're expecting there to be screens, all over the place. Very importantly, in the bar, we're very well positioned in the bar for you to be able to have a beer and watch what's going on. And we're going to try and do some live stream videos as well, so that we can show people what's going on as much as possible. But of course, we have to be sensitive to that, because we can't be broadcasting certain information out to the world. That we need to kind of let those guys do the contest. We have to be careful about who we actually allow to attend the sites. So we couldn't allow all of the spectators just to go where they please and attend sites. We have to offer protection for those operators and allow them to operate without any disturbance. It's likely that we will do some VIP and senior sponsor tours of the certain sites. That's something that we offer to our senior sponsors. But of course, as you mentioned, we'll have the live scoreboards online and at the venue. So that will be a way that it can be tracked and monitored. But we're hoping that we can develop some new ideas about how we get the world involved for those that are unable to attend in person, and that can experience it as much as possible. So I mentioned some live stream videos and interviews and those kind of things. So we'll have as many cameras going as we possibly can during the event, and not just for the contest period itself, but the build up as well, where we're expecting to have numerous presentations and ceremonies. So we're conscious to try and bring this to everybody, whether they can make it to the UK or not.
Well, Mark, I appreciate how thoughtful all of your planning is, and it's certainly exciting. Are there any things that you'd like to share before we close this up?
Well, no, I think I just really want to express my thanks to everyone for the support to the organising committee. I'm really pleased that we're doing this. There have been points, as I mentioned, over the past 9-10 months where I thought maybe this wasn't going to happen, and for one reason or the other. But I'm really pleased with where we are. I feel like we're going to make this happen. We've got a bumpy road along the way, but I'm sure that we'll navigate that. And with the experience of the guys on this team, I have no doubts we're going to get there. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for supporting, and I'm really excited to bring this project with this wonderful team to you. So please start with the CQ Worldwide SSB contest next month. I can't believe it's only next month. That's when the qualification begins, and for the next 18 months. So really excited, and appreciate your time, Kevin, to have this opportunity to talk about WRTC.
I've been talking to Mark Haynes, M0DXR. WRTC 2026 is on the horizon. I'm sure if you want to be a competitor, you already have the rules on your desk, and you'll be operating a month from now. You should consider being a spectator. Check out their website. Mark, thank you for joining me today from London.
Thanks, Kevin. All the best.